Class is dismissed, boys and girls.
You're in. Let's go!
Previously on the YTV Retrospective.
Giddy up! Yeah! Yeah! That was acting, children! Bravo for me! Check this out. Everybody. Check it out.
Happy 35th anniversary, YTV! On the night of September 1st, 1988, YTV first went on air and promoted the new channel and the content it would air with the help of Canadian comedian John Candy. It was a great idea that would shape the future of cable television in Canada. So, on this momentous occasion, how exactly are they going to celebrate it?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
If anything, I think they celebrated too early. When YTV did their collab with RetroKid back in 2021, they pulled out most of the stops, with the nostalgic imagery, bringing back PJ Fresh Phil, and of course, the contest with RetroKid's new clothing line. Even further, they kind of taken away a lot in the past year, haven't they? Most importantly, the Zone. Sure, the name is still one piece, but the sole identity of the block, the live-action segments, are gone. A tradition that was almost around since day one. It's now basically the same as any other block on the channel. That's a tragedy. You know the channel that premiered the morning of September 1st, 1988 called Family Channel? Well, they actually have done a bit more for their 35th anniversary with an event on September 1st, bringing back the old bumpers and bringing back old shows like Naturally Sadie, Radio Free Roscoe, and Life with Derek, while airing older shows in the late nights and early mornings like Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and Goosebumps. Even though most of the shows that were listed are owned by Family's current owner, Wildbrain, omitting the content they had the most of, which was Disney's. Family would remove the Disney content in 2015. As for Teletoon, well, they did nothing, because they rebranded as Cartoon Network in March of 2023. Then again, did they really celebrate anniversaries at all? The closest thing they would celebrate would be the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. So for YTV, I'm going to change that, as we discuss a tradition that was a part of the channel for a decade. And it may be surprising that it involves the award season, which starts now. Oh, don't worry about the tux. It's a little late at the cleaners. The award show, for the longest time, was done either in private or on the radio, until the 25th Academy Awards in 1953. The Emmys aired on television first, as it was basically a celebration of all things television. The Academy would vote on the movies of that year and saw who won. What an established group of elites full of prestige and class. But that all changed when the People's Choice Awards were first introduced in 1975, where the average Joe would vote on their favorite movie. Then in 1987, Nickelodeon would introduce the Big Ballot, in which kids would vote for their favorite movie or show. This would evolve into the Kids' Choice Awards. But our tale starts on November 3rd, 1989. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the YTV Achievement Awards, or YAA for short. Today we will be discussing each award ceremony, the various hosts, winners, and the overall presentation. Now with that said, we may skim through a bunch of the winners, as finding any info on them was like finding a needle in a haystack. So for some of the early years, we'll be looking at the more notable winners. So what are the YTV Achievement Awards? Unlike previous award shows that discussed movies or shows from the past year, YTV went with more of a different approach. They focused on young Canadians 19 or under that have been nominated by their community for doing something great. The nomination would go to various judges, and they would organize the winners. The winners would not only get an award, but also $3,000 that would primarily go towards their future education endeavors. The categories are as followed: acting, band or musical group, bravery, business or entrepreneurship, dance, environmental, innovation or science and technology, instrumental, the President's Award, public service, specialty performance, sports, the Terry Fox Award, visual arts, vocal, and writing. With that said, let's get started. The first YTV Achievement Awards was held on November 3rd, 1989. Its venue was the Metro Toronto Convention Centre in Toronto, Ontario. Look at this venue! You could fit so many people in here as if it was a can of sardines! The first host would be none other than up-and-coming comedian Jim Carrey. Just before he landed his big roles on In Living Color, The Ace Ventura Duology, The Mask, and Batman Forever. Unfortunately, I've been unable to find any footage from this one, but we do have a list of winners. Maybe a case for a few of these award ceremonies. For acting, it was Zachary Ainsley, whose roles include minor roles in MacGyver, 21 Jump Street, The X-Files, and a major role as Arthur Pettibone in the series Road to Avonlea. For bravery, it was Joe Fillion from Orillia, Ontario, as in 1988, he saved his brother from a house fire, unfortunately suffering severe burns around 95% of his body in the process. He would still be recovering from the burns, until his passing in 2021, at the age of 48. For dance, it was Amanda Daft from Delta, BC. For innovation, or science and technology, it was Joshua Richmond from Dresden, Ontario. For public service, it was Melanie Goodchild from Thunder Bay, Ontario. For sports, it was Laurie Shong, a fencer who in a few years would participate in 2 Olympic Games, the 1992 Games in Barcelona and the 2000 Games in Sydney, Australia. For visual arts, it's Hayden Thomas from Vancouver, BC. For band or musical group, it was Imamu Baraka from Vancouver, BC. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Jason Goldberg from Winnipeg, Manitoba. For environmental, it was Shannon Bard from West Vancouver, BC. And the Terry Fox Award belonged to Chandra Leavitt from Musquash, New Brunswick. A great start for the YTV Achievement Awards. For those that were nominated or were winners, there were shorts that were made about these achievements I may have mentioned a long while back. That series of shorts was known as YTV's Really Me, which ran for a few years. YTV would return to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre for the second award ceremony on November 2nd, 1990. This time, the hosts were YTV Rocks and Rock and Talk host Laurie Hibbert and actor Derek McGrath, who you may recognize as Spike, Muggsy, Knuckles, and Lefty on Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. The winners were, for acting, it was Emily Perkins, who you may recognize as young Beverly Marsh in the Stephen King miniseries It. For dance, it was Lisa Jones Alberta. For sports, it was Ian Power from PEI. For instrumental, it was Karen Wong from Vancouver, BC. For specialty performance, it was Gordon Jace from Vancouver, BC. For vocal, it was Selena Grouse from Toronto, Ontario. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Terralyn Tosnard from Nova Scotia. She was an amazing fiddler that after winning the Terry Fox Award, she also appeared on the YTV series Canada's Best. She was also an integral part of her community. Unfortunately, in 1994, she would sadly pass away in a car accident at the age of 21. She will be sadly missed. For environmental, the winner was Mark Kielberger from Thornhill, Ontario, who researched on alternative cleaners that are not toxic to the environment. If I may jump ahead a bit to 1996, his brother Craig Kielberger would win the President's Award, and the two of them would form a charity known as For the Children, which would later become the We Charity. You may have heard of it from high schools across the country with their Me to We and We Days, helping third world countries with new schools and providing social change for the world. Until 2020, when a huge scandal involved bribery of the family of current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau came to light, in which afterwards all of We Charity's operations in Canada were stopped. So it didn't go so well. That may change in 2023 as they are currently suing the CBC for defamation in American federal court. Finally, for band or musical group, it was an up-and-coming band from Scarborough, Ontario. You may have heard of them. The Barenaked Ladies.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me, cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry.
Yeah, that band. The 7-time Juno Award-winning, 2-time Billboard Award-winning, and the 5-time Much Music Video Awards-winning Barenaked Ladies. You may have also heard their work with the theme to the sitcom The Big Bang Theory. A pretty stellar lineup of winners for 1990. The Achievement Awards would take a one-year hiatus and would come back on March 11th, 1992, this time with its second and only other venue at the National Arts Centre in the nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario. Laurie Hibbard would come back to host, but this time being joined by actor Alan Thicke. The winners for 1992 were as followed. For acting, we have Sarah Sawatsky from Vancouver, BC, best known for playing Dee Dee Putman in the movie The Girl from Mars. For bravery, it was David James from Pitt Meadows, BC, who helped rescue his grandfather after a mountaineering accident on the Howe Sound Crest Trail. After this, he was awarded a medal for bravery from the Governor General of Canada in 1992. For dancing, it was Darren and Lara Lynn Lacey from Regina, Saskatchewan. For innovation or science and technology, it was Doug Olafson from BC. For sports, it was Clara Hughes from Manitoba, a cyclist and speed skating icon in Canada. She would compete in the Olympics for over a decade. She would get 2 bronze medals at the 1996 Games in Atlanta, a bronze at the 2002 Games in Salt Lake City, a silver and gold at the 2006 Games in Torino, and a bronze at the 2010 Games in Vancouver. Speaking of Vancouver, she was also the flag bearer of the Canadian Olympic team during the opening ceremonies. She retired from speed skating, but still cycling while raising awareness about mental health. A solid career. For visual arts, it was Danielle Curry from Victoria, BC. For band or musical group, it's punk rock band The Smugglers from Vancouver, BC. For environmental, it's the group Student Action for a Viable Environment, or SAVE for short, from Vancouver, BC. For instrumental, it was Nida Cole from Toronto, Ontario. For specialty performance, it's baton twirler Stacey Singer from Regina, Saskatchewan. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Joey Zachary from Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. Joey was diagnosed with spina bifida and provided advocacy for people with disabilities, creating the Disabilities Awareness Group and Aware Necessities Day, which brought 30 different organizations to the school to talk about disabilities. Finally, for vocal, it was Lisa Brokop from Surrey, BC. A pretty solid year for British Columbia! Returning to the National Arts Centre in Ottawa on April 2nd, 1993, the host for the 4th ceremony would be SCTV legend Andrea Martin. The winners for the 1993 YTV Achievement Awards were, for acting, it was Annie Galipeau from Racine, Quebec, best known for her role in the movie Grey Owl. For bravery, it was Jocelyn McDonald from Inaki, Ontario. 7-year-old Jocelyn McDonald prevented not only herself, but also her 5-year-old friend from being molested. She was awarded the Star of Courage in 1993. Unfortunately, she would be murdered 8 years later. She will be missed. For innovation, or science and technology, it was Roshan Sankar from Brossard, Quebec. For public service, it was Angela Walkley from White House, Yukon Territory. For sports, it was Lindsay Staniforth. For visual arts, it was Andrew Wong from Vancouver, BC. For writing, it was Nicholas Wu from Clearbrook, BC. For band or a musical group, it was the Dervishes from Guelph, Ontario. For environmental, it's Neil Graham from Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. The Terry Fox Award belongs to Cindy Wall from St. John's, Newfoundland. Finally, for vocal, it was Grammy and Juno Award winner Tamia Washington. Back at the National Arts Centre on April 16, 1994, they decided to keep the music host motif going, this time with the host of YTV's The Hit List, Tarzan Dan Freeman, and a musical guest no one would expect. That being... Dan! Oh my goodness! Weird Al Yankovic. The polka parodying Grammy Award-winning artist was a perfect fit for the show. Even he looked like he was having a blast.
The resident of the Governor General. For the YTV Achievement Award winners, it has been a hectic week of scenic excursions, tea parties, pomp, and ceremony. In a word, a maturing experience.
This was also the first time that the full name of the show was abbreviated, and thus its second name was coined. YAA.
Ha ha, gimme 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
The winners this time were, for acting, it was Steve Gendron from Quebec. For bravery, it was Amelia Peter Paul from New Brunswick. 11-year-old Amelia Peter Paul protected her grandmother Mary Jane Jadis from a knife attack in their home in Scotch Fort, PEI. The little girl suffered 26 stab wounds and a partially severed finger, but saved Mrs. Jadis. Amelia recovered from her injuries and was later awarded the Canadian Bravery Award. For sports, it was speed skater Mark Gagnon. Another Canadian Olympic legend who would win 5 medals at 4 Olympic Games. A bronze at the 1994 Games in Lillehammer, a gold medal at the 1998 Games in Nagano, and a bronze and 2 gold medals at the 2002 Games in Salt Lake City. He would retire after 2002, and would have his name inducted in the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame. For dance, it was Matthias Sperling from Toronto, Ontario. For visual arts, it was Zoe McKenzie from Gibson, BC. For band or musical group, it was a tie between Gypsy Soul from Toronto, Ontario, and Seventh Stone from Victoria, BC. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Marc Botte from Saint Foy, Quebec. For instrumental, Marc-André Gauthier from Longueuil, Quebec. For specialty performance, it was a tie between Emily Grenon-Emirglo from Bolsard, Quebec, and Genevieve Bissette from Montreal, Quebec. And finally for vocal, it was Marie-Alice Depestre from Laval, Quebec. A good lineup, a solid year for Quebec, and a weird host to boot.
Kids, don't try this at home. Leave the sweater wearing to the professionals.
On April 8, 1995, the 6th YTV Achievement Awards would be held once again at the National Arts Center, with Tarzan Dan returning, but this time bringing on PJ Fresh Phil and Eva Prager. For the winners, they are... For acting, it was Ashley Aston Moore from Vancouver, BC, best known as Alpha and Donna Archipeco in The Odyssey, and Chrissy in the TV movie Now and Then. For bravery, it was Krista Dudman from Tiverton, Ontario. For dance, it was Marjosh Mrozuski from Sudbury, Ontario. For innovation or science technology, it was Chris Hain and Rarn Puvanessasingham from London, Ontario. For public service, it was Jason Dubois from Rosetown, Saskatchewan. For sports, it was Trevor Nash from Binbrook, Ontario. For visual arts, it was Brian Hodgins from London, Ontario. For writing, it was Elise Moore from Winnipeg, Manitoba. For band or musical group, it was Noir Silence from St. George's, Quebec. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Adam Spires from Red Deer, Alberta. For environmental, it was Paul Brown and Annie Galipo from Ottawa, Ontario. For instrumental, it was Antoine Lefebvre from Saint Lambert, Quebec. For specialty performance, it was Preston Pash from Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, a champion hoop dancer who has performed at local powwows and across the globe. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2021 at the age of 40. He will be missed. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Jean-Dominique Levesque-René from Blizzard, Quebec. For vocal, it was a tie between Misha Gosman from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and Tara Lynn Moore from Roblin, Manitoba. And finally, for the President's Award, it was Manisha Barty from Cornwall, Ontario. Another solid year for the Achievement Awards! On April 28, 1996, YAA would return to Toronto at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. Not only that, but PJ Freshfield would return, and bring along his own co-host Paul McGuire and Larissa Olenek, best known as the lead in the Nickelodeon series The Secret World of Alex Mack. The winners for 1996 are... For acting, it was Aidan Pendleton, who played a few characters in episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and was in the movie Andre. For bravery, it was Stanley Howell and Earl Akamo from Manitoba, who saved a 5-year-old child and baby girl from a burning house in Peerless Lake, Alberta. They noticed the burning house and ran in the snow in their jackets to protect themselves from the extreme heat. They saved the 2 children moments before the house went ablaze, and were awarded with the Medal of Bravery by the Governor General of Canada. For innovation, or science technology, it was Sharon Cushing and Julie Desjardins, as they did a study on acid rain, which got them worldwide recognition.
Design this core. And what it does is it takes sediment samples from the bottom of the lake.
Okay, now how it works, what we're going to do is we're going to lower it through the hole in the ice, and it's going to go down to the bottom, and it's going to come up full of a sediment sample. This is the first ever parachute-assisted core.
For public service, it was Steve Kent from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, who would later become mayor of the city of Mount Pearl until 2017, and a chief executive producer for the local Big Brothers Big Sisters branch, and executive director at the local United Way. For writing, it was Cassie Stewart, who would later create a blog called This Is My Life, as well as working for many larger companies like Pepsi and Netflix, and would also be a speaker that you can bring to your presentation. For band or musical group, it was Plumtree from Halifax, Nova Scotia, who would tour across Canada and the United States until 2000. Fun fact, did you know that the name of one of their tracks would become the name of a character of a graphic novel series? The track's name was Scott Pilgrim. And the name was the inspiration for the main character of the graphic novel series of the same name by Brian Lee O'Malley. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Shane Cuddington from Manor, Saskatchewan. For environmental, it was David Grasby from Thornhill, Ontario. For instrumental, it was Sonia Chan. For specialty performance, it was a tie between Gods of Rhythm from Montreal, Quebec, and Gordon McKeeman from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. And finally, the President's Award was awarded to the aforementioned Craig Kielberger from Thornhill, Ontario. Another ceremony wrapped up in the books. Hosted by Paul McGuire and PJ Ashna Patel, with appearances by PJ Fresh Phil and Foster Fuzzpaw as DJ, the 8th Annual YAA was held in the Metro Toronto Convention Centre once more, featuring musical guests, the Backstreet Boys, and special appearances by Mike Myers, Donny Osmond, Beauty and the Beast from the Broadway musical, Prime Minister at the time Jean Chrétien, and Stacey and Bradley from Stickin' Around. There was also a contest called the YAA Groove Station 3 contest, where people can win a shopping spree at Future Shop.
I missed your Future Shop.
The winners for each category are: for business or entrepreneurship is Christy and Carly Panelik from Hinton, Alberta, for producing and selling homemade bracelets and would donate the proceeds to non-profit charities including the SPCA.
Do you have any rubber walrus protectors?
Call the police.
For specialty performance, it was Travis Knight from Dollard des Ormeaux, Quebec, a tap dancer that learned real quick, winning a large competition after 2 years of getting into tap dancing. He also danced at the Montreal Jazz Festival with actor Gregory Hines. For innovation or science technology, it was Sabrina Perry from St. Leonard, Quebec, who created an electronic detector of biopollutants in soil and water. She would win awards at science fairs in Canada and in Arizona.
You put your sample right over here, and the bacteria would emit light if it is in the presence of a toxin. The light is then focused onto a lens and then is read by the photodiode.
For vocal, it was the Holy Heart of Mary Chamber Choir from St. John's, Newfoundland, as they would create a choir that would include boys in a school of girls, winning in competitions in Vienna. For bravery, it was Steve Marcoux from Victoriaville, Quebec, who alone helped save a woman from a house fire. He also received the Medal of Bravery. For acting, it was Colleen Renison from Vancouver, BC, best known for her roles in a few episodes of Poltergeist: The Legacy and the TV movie Out of Nowhere. She would also go on to become a songwriter, with her most recent album being Persephone in 2023. For public service, it was Nava Mizrahi from Vancouver, BC, who would travel the world and become a public speaker, and would volunteer since the age of 12.
A lot of people think, you're sacrificing yourself when you do that, but when in fact, the more you do it, the more you gain out of it.
For writing, it was Jerome Garapi from Montreal, Quebec, who was an aspiring screenwriter in English and French. For dance, it was Brienne Bland from Vancouver, BC, who started with ballet with 14 years of experience at the time, but also focused on contemporary dance. She would receive the 1997 Royal Academy of Dance Solo Seal Award. For environmental, it was Pamela and Shelley Penton from Fogo Island, Newfoundland, who collected a large amount of cans, cardboard, glass, and plastic to recycle and to help reduce the amount of litter in their town. For band or musical group, it was Soup from Halifax, Nova Scotia. For visual arts, it was Michelle Irving from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Artistic influences. The earliest was Mr. Dress Up, and he used to have a little drawing section on his program.
Who was presented the award by legendary Canadian television icon Ernie Coombs, aka Mr. Dress Up.
Did you ever draw when you in class when you were supposed to be doing something else in school?
Usually.
Did you get in trouble for it?
No, actually I haven't.
Oh, that's too bad, because I used to get in trouble, and I was hoping that if you got in trouble and your teachers were watching now, you could go, yeah, 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 yeah.
For sports, it was Joseph Radmore from Kentville, Ontario, a Paralympian with cerebral palsy, who would participate in the 1996 Paralympic Games in Atlanta, and would win a silver medal in the 100-meter race. For instrumental, it was Benjamin Bowman from Toronto, Ontario, a violinist that is still playing today. He began playing the violin at the age of 5. He would win the grand prize at the National Festival of the Arts in 1994 and later be nominated for several Junos and a Grammy, and would win a Juno Award in 2013. Later in his life, he would become involved with the Metropolitan Opera. Finally, for the Terry Fox Award, it was Kimberly Richard from Pierrefonds, Quebec, who was diagnosed with a rare spinal cord condition called pseudotumor cerebri at the age of 5. In spite of her condition, she would create an annual bowl-a-thon that would raise $4,000 in 1995 that would raise money for necessities the hospital would need, including
1 microwave, 4 bedside tables, 3 rocking chairs, Super Nintendo, Sega, and lots of games. Lots and lots of videos. 40,000 bendable straws.
She would get an annual fund in her name at the Montreal Children's Hospital. A great presentation all around. Hosted by Caroline Ray from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Sean Majumder, and Paul McGuire, the 9th Annual YAA was at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre once more, with segments with the PJs and Fuzzpaws known as the Y-Files, an obvious parody of the X-Files, starring PJ, Katie, and Zeke, as they investigate strange goings-on behind the scenes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will remember nothing. There is no conspiracy, there is no alien presence.
Also having aliens that sound like Kermit the Frog talking to Caroline and Sean.
Since I am the Wizard of YAA.
You are a most fantastic species. Not only do you have exceptionally young ones, you even have small furry creatures who are most entertaining. Farewell, Earthlings.
Including special performances by Robin, cameos from NSYNC, The Punisher from Uh-Oh.
But there's one pair that's greater than all of you, our sponsors.
No! Punisher rules!
Hey,
no!
Look, there's Robin.
98 Degrees, and Oh Hi Ryan Gosling. The winners for 1998 are, for acting, it was Jacob Tierney from Montreal, Quebec, best known for playing Eric on Are You Afraid of the Dark, and would later appear in films like The Trotsky and play Pastor Glenn on Letterkenny. For band or musical group, it was Astro Kick from Kitchener, Ontario. For bravery, it was Ashford Penner from Lloydminster, Saskatchewan. At the age of 17, he saved his 1-year-old nephew from a house fire. He would also be awarded the Medal of Bravery in 1997. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Aleem Jiwa from North Vancouver, BC, a college student who created a Valentine's Day matchmaking service that made around $21,000. In 1996, he also created an all-age dance business. He was a teen ambassador for Global Vision's trade mission to Chile. For dance, it was a tie between Colleen Rintamaki from Pickering, Ontario. Specializing in Highland dancing, she would become a 10-time world champion, winning 9 consecutively.
In a row?
And a 14-time Canadian champion. The other dance winners were Company C from Mississauga, Ontario, a group of 10 students that also performed ballet, tap dancing, jazz, and have won the National Showstopper American Dance Championship in 1997. For environmental, it was Fiona Grant from Victoria, BC. She has been focusing on genetics since grade 9 and would attempt to solve the paternity puzzle that could determine the future health of many species of trees. She is also an athlete, musician, and able to speak multiple languages. For instrumental, it was John McAfee from Summerside, Prince Edward Island, an expert bagpipe player who would win the North American Solo Piping Championship. For innovation, or science and technology, it was Claire Heslop from Almont, Ontario, who contributed in groundbreaking research on the prevention of the birth defect spina bifida. For public service, it was Lisa Monkman from Winnipeg, Manitoba, who promotes Indigenous cultures to young children through workshops of song and dance. She would be the recipient of 2 Indigenous Youth Achievement Awards. She would later become a physician that would bring an Indigenous perspective to her practices. For special performance, it was Emile Carey from Montreal, Quebec. Inspired by the Cirque du Soleil, he became a juggler who would eventually work his dream job with Cirque du Soleil and Cirque Eloise. For sports, it was Emmanuel Sandhu from Richmond Hill, Ontario, a figure skater and dancer who also won the 2004 Grand Prix Final Championship and 3 Canadian National Championships. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Heather Muir from Walkerton, Ontario. A girl with a rare disorder known as Nevis syndrome, she would raise money so that people with disabilities can join in the hobby of horseback riding. Mainly the organization, the Pegasus Riding Association Nurturing Challenged Equestrians, or PRANCE for short. For visual arts, it's Ollie Goldsmith from Toronto, Ontario, who designed the album art for Our Lady Peace's Spiritual Machines, as well as directing and animating the music video In Repair. For vocal, it was Justin Hines from Stouffville, Ontario, a singer-songwriter who, despite his disability, which is Larson syndrome, released 5 studio albums. He got his start performing the national anthem at a Toronto Raptors game at 14, after winning a contest. He provided work for YTV and Treehouse, and TV shows such as Skinamarink TV.
Some
kiss the girl.
Finally, for writing, it was Warren Beatty from Sudbury, Ontario, a thespian writer who, at the time of his award, was also turning 19. Happy birthday! A lot of winners in 1998, with 2 more ceremonies remaining. On the 10th Annual YTV Achievement Awards at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa, Phil Guerrero and Paul McGuire would return to the hosting duties, but this time bringing an extra set of hosts, with Ben Savage and Danielle Fischel, aka Corey and Topanga from Boy Meets World. The show also included a special performance by Bewitched. The winners for 1999 were, for acting, it was Brendan Fletcher from Vancouver, BC, best known for playing bully Larry Willingham in the first Air Bud movie, Mark Davis in Freddy vs. Jason, and Sterling Sting Patterson in The Adventures of Shirley Holmes. Fun fact, Brendan was nominated for this category in both 1997 and 1998, before finally winning it in 1999. For bravery, it was Dustin Onerheim from Frontier, Saskatchewan. In 1997, after the family car crashed with their friend who was pregnant at the time, 5-year-old Dustin was the only one that was able to escape the wreckage, save his 2 younger sisters, and called for help saving those involved. Hours later, they would also learn he also suffered a concussion in the process. He was also awarded a few bravery awards as well. For innovation or science and technology, it was Jack and Mark Nowinski from Waterloo, Ontario. 19-year-old twin brothers and first-year electrical engineering students at the University of Waterloo have won nearly every national and international science fair competition they have entered. Among their inventions is an electrocardiograph, which can be hooked up to a home computer. The device notifies medical specialists via modem of any serious irregularity. For dance, it was David Cox from St. Catharines, Ontario. For public service, now dubbed the UNICEF Award, it was Jennifer Tullison from New Westminster, BC. For sports, it was Bernard Lutzmer from Pickering, Ontario. For visual arts, it was Riel Ben from Beulah, Manitoba. For writing, it was Aidan Johnson from Hamilton, Ontario. For band or musical group, it was Serial Joe from Newmarket, Ontario. They won the Best Independent Video at the 1998 Much Music Video Awards for their song Skid Row, and would become the house band for the YTV series System Crash. They would make 4 albums and would disband in 2002. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Hilary Rowland from Port Hope, Ontario. For environmental, it was Lily Johnson Okayama from Vancouver, BC. For instrumental, it was pianist Barenaked Zakrzeski from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. For specialty performance, it was A-Track from Entremont, Quebec. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Pamela Finney from Golden, BC. She was diagnosed with lymphoblastic leukemia, a type of childhood cancer. And rather than keep her down, she wrote a book about her experiences, created a board game, and raised $16,000 for the Terry Fox Foundation to help those who are also fighting cancer. In the process, she also won the Terry Fox Humanitarian Award in 2002. She also provides support by speaking at national events and sitting on the National Executive for Candlelighters Canada, an organization that provides support for children diagnosed with cancer and their families. Finally, for vocal, it was Trevor Bowes from Vancouver, BC. 10 ceremonies down, 1 more to go. The 11th and final YAA was held at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, with the final hosts being current hosts of the Zone at the time, Jennifer Katie Scott and Pat Kelly, and Canadian Olympic cyclist Kurt Harnett. The final YTV Achievement Awards went to, for acting, it was Lawrence Arquette from Montreal, Quebec, best known for being the voice of Arthur Reed in the first 3 seasons of Arthur's French dub, Casper in the French dub of Casper and Wendy, and Vincent Martin in the French dub of What About Mimi. For business or entrepreneurship, it was Michael Furtick from Toronto, Ontario. For innovation or science and technology, it was Mark Andre and John Michael Fillion from North Bay, Ontario. For public service or the UNICEF Award, it was Anna Miller from Edmonton, Alberta. For sports, it was Genevieve Jeanson from Lachine, Quebec. A cyclist that represented Team Canada in the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia, winning several World Cups and Junior World Championships in the process. However, in 2005, she failed a drug test for EPO and was banned from cycling for 10 years. When she left, she focused on an academic career and is now a fitness trainer in Montreal, coming back to competitive cycling in the pro gravel circuit in 2022. For band or musical group, it was Tegan and Sarah from Calgary, Alberta, an indie pop duo that started in 1998 and are still going to this day. Even receiving a Grammy nomination in 2012, They would also release a memoir called High School, which was adapted into an Amazon Prime series in 2022. An interesting note that one of the nominations would also become a big hit as well, which was Sum 41. For dance, it was Cody Green from Surrey, BC, a Broadway dancer in traveling productions of West Side Story, Grease, and Movin' Out. He won the grand prize in the 2008 series Step It Up and Dance. He would also dance at the 2013 Oscars, along with the likes of Seth MacFarlane, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Daniel Radcliffe, a very solid dancing career. For visual arts, it was Jonas Bell-Pash from Toronto, Ontario. For instrumental, it was Caitlin Tully from Vancouver, BC. For specialty performance, it was Jessie Van Rooy from Toronto, Ontario. For the Terry Fox Award, it was Quinn Page from Turner Valley, Alberta. At the age of 15, she suffered a major spinal cord injury after a car accident, and left her paralyzed from the waist down. Rather than the injury keeping her spirits down, with the help of her community, she would strive to graduate high school and would give back to her community even in college, living a good life with a husband and her 3 children. Finally, for vocal, it was country singer Adam Gregory from Edmonton, Alberta, who is still performing to this very day. The final YTV Achievement Awards went out with a bang.
And those were the YTV Achievement Awards.
It's crazy to think that there was an award show on TV that was about the people that watch this network, and could potentially carve the way of the future. That was a really cool idea, and it held strong for 11 award ceremonies.
Would YTV get another award show on their channel? Well, as a matter of fact, they did.
As they would get the Canadian broadcasting rights to the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards in 2007, even having some of the hosts, including Carlos, fly down and get interviews on the green carpet. That's pretty cool. Although, I'm not sure how it's going to look now with the faces of YTV practically gone. Only time will tell.
When we come back, wait, what month is it again? Ooh, the spooky month is back again, and you know what that means.
Next time on the YTV Retrospective.
Check this out. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
I'm Graham.
And here's Elephant.
Right.
And you're watching YTV Retrospective from Metro. No, from Fan Expo.